After the success of the first original icon, Jack the Clown, and Halloween Horror Nights 10 overall, Universal would want to replicate this with the following year's event, creating a brand new character to serve as their icon. This conceived individual would be bigger and badder, presenting an even more terrifying way in promoting the event, as Halloween Horror Nights 11 would have gone to be the most extreme year ever. But unforeseen circumstances would alter this event forever. Let's see how it came to be. This is SP History. In developing their concept for the 2001 event, Universal saw the popularity of Jack the Clown as he was an effective marketing tool to garner guests to come, but also allowing more opportunities in merchandising and storytelling within the event. With that, the team behind Halloween Horror Nights would decide to create another terrifying original character to serve as an icon, but also as the main marketing instrument to intrigue guests to return for another year of haunts. This character would be more disturbing than Jack the Clown and make his presence known throughout this iteration of the Halloween event. His name would be Edgar Sawyer, Eddie for short, and would have a menacing look as he wore an iron muzzle and visible burnt scars all over his face, carrying his ultimate weapon, a chainsaw. Just like Jack, he would have an elaborate backstory that would be involved with the houses and scare zones of the event that year. Edgar's story was that he was a horror fanatic as he grew up on classic Universal horrors and 80s slasher films. In his youth, he lived in a broken family as they resided in a rundown trailer park, but he would make most of what he had, finding ways to escape his miserable life. As a young adult with the admiration of horror films, one of the ways he would find his escape was by creating his very own haunted house in the trailer park. His admirable passion was noticed as locals would come adoring his house of horrors, but on one unfaithful day, a group of teens would have sinister thoughts and set the trailer park aflame. But without knowing, Eddie wasn't inhabiting the house in the park and was caught in the flames, severely burning his body, disfiguring him forever. This incident would also mentally alter Eddie as his obsession for horror grew and he would now become a slasher killer himself, donning the muzzle mask and his weapon of choice, with his slasher name being Edgar Dice Slay. In wanting to unleash more terror upon people, Eddie would make his way towards Halloween Horror Nights, wanting to create the most terrifying place on Earth. With his plans, Eddie would have a confrontation with Jack the Clown during the event, as he would want to rid him so he could be the ultimate face of horror. Eddie would have teamed up with the Chainsaw Drill team to take down Jack and his clowns, and he would succeed, carrying Jack's decapitated head, claiming victory. This would have been the premise of the year's event, and all the houses would be creations of Eddie as he shared his love for evil. With all that, Halloween Horror Nights 11 would once again occur on 19 nights during October and November, featuring another round of 5 houses, 3 scare zones, and 5 entertainment offerings as Eddie will unleash mayhem upon Universal Studios Florida. Approaching towards the opening of the event in October of 2001, everything would be set as marketing ramped up as Universal would tout the phrase, "I see you," with Eddie headlining. But things would be suddenly altered as a tragic real-life event would occur before the opening of Halloween Horror Nights 11. On September 11, 2001, the United States was attacked as terrorists hijacked 4 commercial planes targeting the World Trade Center buildings and other government facilities. 2,996 lives were lost due to this horrific event and put the country in a state of fear and shock. With this incident happening so soon to the opening of the annual Halloween event, Universal would decide to change their event dramatically, making it more appropriate towards the attitudes of American citizens at the time. Such alterations to occur would be changing the names of some houses, scare zones, and entertainment offerings, but the most notable change would be the change of icons. With Eddie being such a dark, disturbing character, they would replace him with the return of Jack the Clown and alter the taglines of the event to "Jack's back and there's no more clowning around," as Eddie would not be seen at all during the duration. Though Eddie was completely scrapped, he would re-emerge in later years with an altered storyline. Alongside all those changes, the overall event was toned down as anything graphic or violent was removed and blood was substituted with green goop. With changes in place, Halloween Horror Nights 11 would begin on October 5, 2001, ready to provide another good year of great Halloween fun. Regardless of all the alterations, the same number of houses, scare zones, and entertainment offerings occurred, just either with different names or storylines. Beginning with the houses, there were 5 of them, and still including interesting sets and storylines that guests would be intrigued to journey into. First, located in the Earthquake Queue, it would be an IP house based on the 2001 sequel film The Mummy Returns, being officially named The Mummy Returns: The Curse Continues. The house had guests entering the Scorpion King's temple from the film, where different mummified creatures preyed on unsuspecting victims. Originally, this house would have been named The Mummy Returns: Temple of Terror, and the storyline would have not been directly related to the film, rather as a spin-off to them, being more horrific. The second house in this event would be in the same location, being called Run, and it would have originally been the main house of the event. Before the changes, this house would have served as the icon house for Eddie, as the story involved him as the creator of an evil game show where he and his chainsaw freaks would chase down contestants to slaughter, and the ultimate prize would be survival. This would have been the most intense house in the history of the event, but due to the toning down of this year, this house would remove Eddie entirely, but maintain the same story, just in a less graphic nature. The next house to be included was in Soundstage 22, being titled Pitch Black. Not being related to the Vin Diesel film, and being one of the few houses to not be altered entirely, this was an original concept as guests ventured into the unneeded medical supply warehouse where darkness has taken over. A research team has gone missing, and while visiting the warehouse, you now imitate their experience as they encounter glowing faces that inhabit the darkness. The house would be in total darkness, as you would hear weird noises, see those glowing faces, and strobe lights would blind you as you journey through. The fourth house would also be placed in Soundstage 22, taking guests through an abandoned carnival attraction where evil versions of fairy tale characters inhabited, being called Scary Tales. The story stated that this carnival has trapped these fairy tale characters for 30 years, and now they have mutated into terrifying versions of themselves, seeking revenge on anyone who comes in. As guests entered the house, it would feature evil versions of characters from fairy tales like Alice in Wonderland, Little Red Riding Hood, and Pinocchio. This house would have originally been called Terrorland, and the story was slightly different as the house was set in a theme park where different animatronics based on fairy tale characters have malfunctioned and now preyed on visitors, but due to including the word terror in its title, that had to be changed to Scary Tales. The final house to be featured was located in Nazareth, being ultimately called Superstitions. Being another original concept, the story behind this house was that guests entered a recently discovered warehouse of archaeologist Theodore Raven, who was an expert of the occult and supernatural, as the warehouse consisted of many different ancient relics and urban legends. As guests walked through, they would encounter many superstitions such as broken mirrors and black cats, but also confront evil urban legends like Bloody Mary and Hookman. This house was not altered as much other than being more toned down. Regardless of the certain changes, these assortment of houses will still stand out as excellent additions, and we would see some of them get sequel renditions in future events. There would be 3 scare zones during Halloween Horror Nights 11, and each would have been altered in some way due to the state of the country at the time. The first scare zone would be located in the main location of Amity Village, and it would be the returning midway of the bazaar, bringing back all the evil carnies and clowns who had spread terror in this location for many years before. The zone will not be as big as the previous versions, but still maintain the same vibe. The 2 other zones would receive new names due to the altered revisions. First, being held in Central Park, originally called Dead Zone, would turn into The Unknown, as it was a gothic-themed zone where many gargoyle-like creatures lurked around. The other zone would be in what is known as Shrek Alley now and be titled Nightmare Alley. Originally, this zone was called Slasher Alley and would have seen the Chainsaw Drill Team and assumedly Eddie here stalking guests in Red Fog, but it was now altered with movie slashers like Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers roaming the streets instead of the Chainsaw Drill Team, and the Red Fog was removed. The final aspect of this year's event would be the entertainment offerings, as it included many returning acts, but now with new names. First would be the headlining Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure, returning again as the 2 dudes meet a cast of characters like Jay and Silent Bob and Shrek, as they're involved in a plot where Imhotep from The Mummy, Thade from Planet of the Apes, and Lord Farquaad from Shrek seek to use a machine called the Populator to retrieve any popular character from any point in time to rewrite history in their favor. This show was possibly the only offering not to be changed at all, unlike the others. For instance, a parade would occur being named Nightmares on Parade rather than the Festival of the Dead Parade, but would still be very similar to the past iterations. One show originally called Deadly Delusions would now become Dangerous Delusions, a magic show held in the Animal Actor stage. Another offering was the Ooh Zone, being held in the Confrontation Ride building, which was a party area where guests could play and dance in foam, which was initially named Bloodbath Underground Fright Club. And it changed with not only the name, but the color of the foam was supposed to be red, representing blood, but was now changed to be green. The last offering to be discussed is called Boogeyman, which was held in the Pantages Theater where the daytime horror maker show was usually performed, and it would show different clips from horror films. It seems that Boogeyman was relatively untouched. But just like the houses, the scare zones and entertainment offerings made best of what was changed from their original concepts, and still provided great complementary experiences to the overall event. Though Halloween Horror Nights 11 will be overshadowed by its noticeable changes it endured before it began, Universal was still able to produce a great product to guests who would attend the 2001 Halloween event, still creating new nightmarish realms and providing the best entertainment around the world, but also being respectful to the country's state of mind post 9/11. But Universal knew that Halloween Horror Nights would be back the next year better than ever, and as the event would find its way towards a new domain of evil.